Today's a special day for our United Way, and it's been a part of a long journey, I think, for better than almost 16 years, thanks to our Women's Leadership Council, now Women United. We've had a focus on early care and education because the research and the science tells us that if you don't start early creating great experiences for young children, then the ripple effect of that can be really serious. And so this is a culmination bringing policymakers and business leaders together to talk about the importance of the issue and really get down to brass tacks about how do we address it, which is clearly going to be, by funding it.
So this is the second year that Berry Cherry Tree is hosting Early Ed Day, and so this is hosted all around the state. We are super excited to have it hosted here for the second year in a row. We've got United Way here today. We've got business leaders in the community. We have legislators, representatives, senators, all from around the state. And our goal here is to highlight the amazing work that's being done in the early care industry. So often people think that what we do is babysit children, and when you get the opportunity to tour our center, you will see the tremendous work that is being done. And all that work is grounded in interactions between the teacher and the children. And that is our goal today, to educate all these leaders that come to our state, all these business partners, to see what truly works. And we know that 90% of brain development happens between 0 and 4 years old. It is what happens in early care and education that basically sets the foundation for these kiddos to go and be successful into not only school but in the workplace.
It is so vital that we reach out to our children 0 to 3 years old. In my area, there's a lot of children that don't get exposed to the knowledge and the opportunities that are out there. They never even leave the zip code, and what you see is cycles of poverty that never break that cycle because they don't know what they don't know. And so being able to get children while they're so young and helping out mothers and single parents and fathers that are raising their children, doing everything they can to make ends meet, and yet they have not the resources for their children to be able to know what they're capable of doing. And for me, it's breaking cycles of poverty. To me, that's exactly what this is going to be about, helping our children expand to their highest potential. And the potential's there. They just need the exposure. They need the help in order to know what's out there for them, and getting them before they get into kindergarten is just going to give them so much more opportunity to achieve. So we're excited about it. That's what I'm here for. I need it desperately in my area and across the state, basically. We need it, and it's a good investment, and we are completely in support of this.
There's a compelling moral argument, right, and to bring in early education for families, and I think we have a waiting list of over 4,000 kids that need this early childhood development. I think we can all agree that is the truth, that there is a moral obligation to do this, but there's so much more to it. It's the right thing to do, and I think we all know that because we want to do what's right. We want to do what's right for quality of life throughout Jefferson Parish and throughout Louisiana. Our organization is so committed to this because we know it's about providing a quality workforce. It's a long-term investment, we get that, but we are last in the country in funding for early childhood, and no kid deserves to show up in kindergarten or first grade not prepared and not knowing how to read, and to not be able to have the same opportunity that every child should have, so that they're not behind in the 3rd grade and the 6th grade, and so that we continue to develop this quality workforce and this quality of life that is so important for our parish and our state.
In 2001, we pulled together 50 of what I think are the most talented and passionate women in the community. And these were the original 50 founders of Women United. And we polled them and we said, what is the #1 priority for us? What do we want to do as women leaders to bring an issue forward? And it was 100% quality early childhood education.
One of the things I'm most excited about was that post-Katrina, we had an opportunity to rebuild child care centers to quality standards. And when we talk about quality standards, that's national accreditation standards beyond what we're currently expecting our child care centers to meet. This is exciting for us to see this building post-Katrina and the children living and learning in this space. One of the things that we also are most proud about is that we now have policymakers that are engaged in conversation and recognize the importance of an early investment so that we see a return on the back end so that this community and this state is doing well. This is not just a United Way effort. We need everybody working with us to see to it that our youngest and our brightest are prepared and ready to succeed in life.
The Jefferson Chamber it's a big priority for us at the Jefferson Chamber for early education and care. It is a long-term investment in the state, and we feel like it leads back to so many different issues that we are interested in within the chamber and within the business community. Early childhood education goes back to, or it leads into criminal justice reform, workforce development, and a host of other issues for us. So it's important for us to build a collaborative and get support behind this and show business leaders, and elected officials what a high quality, high performing center looks like.
What it means to me as a parent, which is more important than a school board member, is very important for me to have the community understand the importance of 0 to 4 education. I think it's something where we've missed the boat. We need to stress that. We need to put more money and resources into those babies. We need to help the parents educate those children before we get them into our schools. I totally believe in these programs, like at this school here. We need to put all our support into these programs. We need to save these babies. We need to start from the ground level and do everything we can to get them ready when they come to us in school. We need to support these babies and their families a lot more than what we're doing.
In my estimation, it's absolutely critical. The pipeline to juvenile court is children who are not capable of performing in school. They go to school and they cannot compete with the other children. They can't perform correctly, they have behavior problems, and they end up not able to remain in school. They go to special schools, they're suspended, they are expelled, and they end up in the juvenile court system. It is truly the pipeline to jail ultimately. So this place, Cherry Berry, is the perfect beginning spot for children. We need to expand this type of educational setting across the state because it teaches children how to learn to behave, to learn how to learn to go to school. It's perfect.
I can tell you the need for that early childhood education. I was in graduate school, my spouse worked, she was in graduate school, my children and their spouses all work, and then you're left with the question, what do you do, where do you send your children to get this quality education? And sometimes for working parents, because they don't have that income coming in, it's very difficult to afford affordable early childhood education. So it not only helps the parents, it also helps the employers. As the human resources director, many times our nurses would ask, I would like to work more, I would like to contribute more, but I have a challenge with children and where I'm going to send my children to school. So building on what Cathy said, it also adds to the general economy. It makes more productive parents, and it prepares our children and grandchildren to become productive members in society and in the workforce. So hats off. We need all the supports that we can get. And again, it always starts down here in the family, and then from there on up to pursue other educational opportunities.
Aside from the obvious impact that it has on a child's quality of life, you can see through today the socialization and education that these children are getting. It's just not care. It's socialization, education, which is going to help them as they move into the K through 12 setting and help the entire school system in Jefferson Parish as they do that. But from purely a business perspective, a workforce development perspective, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce came out a few years back with a report which reflected the problems that we have with employees when they do not have access to affordable quality child care. They can't accept better positions because the numbers are just not working for them, because obviously quality child care is very expensive. So we've got to be able to put everybody in a position where they can afford to take an advance in their employment or work more hours, and the numbers will work for them. And therefore, the kids are getting, not only are we getting the benefit of getting them being able to advance in work, we get the benefit of their children going to a quality setting, which will smooth the transition through when they get to K through 12 and give us a better educated population further on down the line.
I think as business people, we like to make data-driven decisions, and the data and the science behind the return on investment in early childhood education, early childhood experiences is overwhelming, and we have really missed the mark on it. The data tells us that 80% of brain development has happened by the age of 3, and unfortunately in society and as a business community, we think of early childhood education as pre-K 4. By that time, we've missed the boat. There are so many opportunities for investment, 0 to 3, to have our kids school ready, to have a workforce that's ready for the job when they get out of school. Those investments need to happen between 0 and 3. That's when the brain is being developed. That's when those important synapses are occurring that give children the skills and the motivation to be successful in life. That happens early, and we're missing that boat if we're not engaging in early childhood experiences and if we're only focusing on pre-K 4.
As former chair of Women United and a current member of the Board of Trustees of United Way, access to quality early childhood education is really important for not only our community, but for the state of Louisiana as a whole. As a partner in philanthropy, we play a role at United Way and Women United in working with the state and agencies in making sure that all folks in Louisiana have access to quality early childhood education and care. It is really important not only for the development of children, but it's important for our families who are working and contributing to the economic success of Louisiana. Quality early childhood education is a very important start in each child's life. By ensuring that each child has access to quality early childhood education, it gives them the best start to become not only good students, but later on productive members of society. Quality early childhood education is very important because brains develop at an early age, and access to this care is really important. It sets them up for success in school, to be able to read by 3rd grade, and once they learn to read in 3rd grade, then they're able to learn and go on to complete high school and higher education.
Every child should have the opportunity to be able to develop and grow and become whatever their capability to become. I mean, whatever their potential is. And so many of our children aren't given potential because they don't have the opportunity to get stimulation, to get education, to be in environments where they're safe, where they have an opportunity to learn. From an economic standpoint, the numbers are just obvious that, or the evidence is overwhelming. Let me put it that way. The evidence is overwhelming that by investing in early education, we are going to get a tremendous return on investment. If we take kids that don't have a chance now and we put them in an environment where they can be developed and their brains can develop and their social skills can develop, when they get into kindergarten, they'll be at an equal footing. You know, if you look at kids from under-resourced families, those children hear 30 million less words by the time they're 4 years old than children from families that do have resources. They don't get to go to summer camp. They don't get to go on vacations. They don't get people to read to them simply because mom has to go to work. And there's not enough resources to do that. So from an economic standpoint, if we can spend money in this space, we're going to find ourselves in a much better position where we're not going to have as many children dropping out of school. We're not going to have as many children going into the juvenile justice system. We're going to have children who are going to graduate and become taxpayers, who are going to be contributing back to our society. It's an important thing to do, and it just makes all the economic sense in the world.
I became interested in Women United early on because of the child care issue. I actually did my master's thesis on corporate child care and what the effects of good child care are in the workforce. And many of us can afford to pay for quality child care. What Women United, and this is all about, is making affordable child care available to everybody so that every child in our community has access to good schools, to learning, to lower dropout rates, so that they're better prepared. And if they're better prepared, then they'll be able to enter our institutions of higher education. They'll be prepared for the better jobs. And so what we need to do is to make sure that our child care is completely inclusive and not just available, but quality available, so that our children who do most of their learning from the age 0 to 5, that they really are prepared. And statistics show that they're the ones that stay, who graduate, and then who go on to succeed in better jobs. And so that's the support that we need for early childhood education.
As a working parent, I can tell you that I'm not alone in facing the critical issue of high quality early child care for my own children. We recognize in the legislature and across the state that having high quality access to high quality early childhood education is critical not just for our children, but for our workforce. And it's exciting to see the legislature finally start to recognize this.
It's very important for our community and also for the whole state. Early childhood education is just not like having people just watching your child for a certain period of time. It's putting in instruction that's important for them to learn and to move forward in that direction. And starting at an early age is so important because of some of the situations that we have where overall the hospitality industry in those areas that we're so famous for shows that we need early childhood education for those parents who need to go out and go to work early in the morning, work till late in the afternoons. And so we need to have them in an environment that's not just a babysitting environment, but an instructional environment to be able for them to move forward in the life that we have planned for them.
Obviously, education is a huge priority of mine. I think it's vitally important to giving our kids the tools that they need to succeed, especially early education. You can't have kids coming into school not being prepared to pick up and run from when they enter the school. We don't want them at any type of social or language disadvantage. And obviously this is something I care very much about.
I do serve on the Education Committee in the House of Representatives, and we are tasked with doing policy. And one of the things that is really at the forefront of what we are doing is early childhood education. And it also goes to early care when there are two working parents or even a single working parent. It is vital that we take care of and provide quality care and education for our youngest citizens.
The appropriate role is to lead, and I think the way that we lead is by doing what's necessary, by funding the most important area of investment, in my opinion, and that's our earliest form of education, birth to 4. There's no greater investment that we can make. The data is clear. The science is there. There's no better return on our investment, and we have to lead by investing. So I think that's the role that we play at the state legislature.
During the 2018 regular session, I sponsored an act which created the Early Education Caring Commission. We've been studying over the past year the early education needs in our state, and have really, and our report that came out a couple of weeks ago is actually called LAB to 3, and it focuses on our birth to 3 contingency, where we do not cover most of those children. We only cover about 7% of the 0 to 2-year-olds and 33% of the 3-year-olds. Just to give you an understanding of that, 0 to 3 is where 80% of brain development occurs. So where we're standing right now in this Berry Cherry Tree School, we are seeing these educators are building the foundation of these children and building the foundation of Louisiana, really. They're tremendous not only for these children, we also see it on the other end of the spectrum for our workforce development. This is not only building the workforce of 20 years from now, it is also helping our moms and dads and caretakers who need to be in the workforce and who are either accepting fewer hours, rejecting promotions because they do not have quality, reliable childcare.
Let's face it, you won't talk to any legislator that won't tell you that early childhood education is a good cause. But when you come, especially in the financial state that we're in, where we always seem to be trying to find more money, our goal this year is not just to educate people on how important it is to give these children this foundation, but to make it a priority, so that when we do the budget, it goes in first. So we're not in the waning hours of the legislature negotiating to see how much we can give to early childhood education or not. This is not rocket science. You know, it's almost too simple. It's like building a house. If you don't build it with a good foundation, it's not going to get anywhere. And in this day and age, when you look at the job market out there and everything like that, the best gift that we can give to our youth is to start them off in the right direction and hopefully let them carry on through K through 12. And hopefully on to some graduate degree, a college and graduate degree, and that's what's going to help everybody.
I look at what other countries are doing in Western Europe and in Asia. Countries like China, they're making investments prenatally and 0 to 3. And if we're going to compete globally in the marketplace, we've got to make these investments now in early childhood experiences and early childhood education.
We've been known as a fundraising organization for so long. But the reality is, unless you pair smart investments with a really smart policy, you really can't scale impact. And so we've been fortunate to have a public policy committee that's been led by the incomparable Kim Sport, who's really focused us on addressing policies that are going to be good for the people we serve. In this particular case, we're talking about policies that lead to more effective early care and education for all the children throughout the state that we're here to serve. So we've got a great committee of volunteers, business leaders, and thought leaders that are actually helping guide our thinking. So when we show up on Early Ed Day and we show up at the Capitol, it's very thoughtful while we're there. And the fact is, we want to make sure there are great policies in place that are good for our children and our families.
Pam, as my partner in public policy at Southeast Louisiana, how excited were you about what we experienced today?
What we experienced today was a very exciting tour of the Berry Cherry Tree Child Care Center. We had legislators from across the state to join us. We had community leaders and the United Way of Southeast Louisiana, the Chamber. Everyone was here and excited to actually come together to support funding for early childhood and education.
Well, I can tell you, the reason I asked Pam to join me here is that we have the enormous privilege of working together at United Way of Southeast Louisiana. Nothing that I achieve as the lead staff person for policy and advocacy could happen without the extraordinary support of this remarkable woman. But I asked her to join me because two of us share an incredible bond. We're grandmothers. And let me tell you, we have professional women with our grandkids working in the workforce. I cannot tell you how many times we are fortunate to be employed by United Way, because so often they would be in a challenging situation at their jobs. We're picking up our grandkids from school, and when they don't have a support system, it's our support system that's taking care of those children at our work. We know that for our kids to reach their highest economic potential, secure foundation for early education is a moral imperative, and we could not be more proud of the fact that our children have access, but our dream is for all children to have that same access.